I'm not going to say that, man. I see you. It started with a soccer game. I was coaching my oldest daughter on a co-ed soccer team, and she was reaching that age where the kids start to get a little rough, especially the boys. They like to knock people over and shove them around a little bit. And my daughter was one of the first to fall down, one of the first to whine, one of the first to cry. But she started to get tougher during this particular season. And I remember one particular game where she got knocked over repeatedly. But every time she got knocked over, she would get up, dust herself off, look over to the sideline, and give me what I call the I see you sign. I don't know where she picked it up. I don't know if I'd ever given her the sign, but it took special meaning for me that day, and it's been with me ever since. I see you. When I'm in my classroom, I try to see my students. I try to appreciate where they come from. I try to see the struggles that they go through, the strengths that they have, and see the part of their life outside of school that they'll let me see. I try to, when I see that I see them, I appreciate them a little bit more, I understand them a little bit more, and I love them a lot more. So there she is. So soon after my daughter's soccer game, one of my students spoke in class. Now, normally that wouldn't be news, but this particular student, we'll call him Edwin, hardly ever spoke a word. It was a challenge every day to try to get him to even acknowledge me when he came into the classroom. Every once in a while, I would be rewarded by my efforts with a nod, and that's about it. I was able to pair him with a student that was understanding and very patient, and he would read in a very low voice a sentence or two every now and then. Towards the end of the semester, we were working on George Bernard Shaw's Pygmalion, and the class was doing presentations. And I convinced Edwin to go up with his group with the understanding that all he had to do was go up there and hold the poster. Lo and behold, towards the end of the presentation, he said, "This is an archetype." Now, I'm not even sure if everybody heard him, but to me, it was huge. I wanted to stand up and clap, but not surprisingly, Edwin hated to be embarrassed or pointed out in any way. So, I gave him a sign. I just wanted him to know that I had noticed, that I had appreciated his effort, even though I knew it was a big deal for him. And his reaction? He smiled. Well, actually, it was more of a grin, but to me, it was a smile. My next student was Rosa. Rosa was a very different kind of student. Rosa had a quick mind and a quicker mouth. You all know the type of student. She loved to challenge her teachers. Sometimes I think she was doing it just to uphold her sassy reputation. Other times I think she just wanted her teachers to know how smart she really was. Sometimes I think she just did it to drive me crazy. In one particular unit, we were doing vocabulary, and we were studying the word tedious. You can see where this is going. A couple of days later, we were working on some notes, and yes, it may not have been my most exciting lesson plan ever, and Rosa was all too happy to point out loudly to the class that, "Mr. Johnson, you're being tedious." The class broke out in hysterics. I didn't know whether to scream or to laugh. I think I did both. And during the laughter, I gave her the sign. I just wanted her to know that we were okay. I didn't want to make a big deal about it. I wanted her to know that it was okay to laugh. Years later, she told me that that was one of the highlights of her high school time, and you can bet she never forgot the word tedious. The third and final student I'll tell you about was named Elizabeth. But we'll call her Elizabeth for today. Elizabeth was one of those students who had a lot of trouble outside of school. She would be in class for a few days and then disappear for days at a time, and then she would come back, often late, and sort of slide into class. She didn't want to be noticed. She didn't want me to say anything. But she always had a sort of sad look in her eyes. You could tell that she was happy to be back, but you knew that there was something else going on. And Elizabeth was a great starter. She had these wonderful ideas. She would do all the pre-writing. She could do all the brainstorming, the outlining, anything I asked. But she never finished. Towards the end of that year, I got an email from Elizabeth, and it was a story that we had started in October. So here we are in May, I think it was, and it was one of the best stories I'd ever read by a student. So I emailed her back, and I said, your story was great. I'd love to talk with you about it. I hope to see you in class sometime soon. She was there the next day. Late, sliding into class, and again, just wanted her to know that I appreciated her. I didn't want to make a big deal about it. I didn't want to give her an award. Well, I did, but I knew that that was the last thing that she wanted. So what have I learned from my students? Speak up. Don't forget to laugh. Never give up. Providence teachers, I see you. I see all the time that you put in, before school, after school. All the things that you do that nobody asks you to do, but you do anyway. Reading, writing, prepping, coaching, fundraising, chaperoning. The list goes on. But pushing, praising, cheering. We all know students like Edwin, Rosa, Elizabeth, and at times they may drive us a little bit crazy, but that doesn't stop us. And it may be years before any of your students come back to see you. We've all had those great moments where a student comes back, and it's usually this last student that you expect to come back that does. But I just want you to know, even if they don't come back, that everyone in this room understands. We call them our kids, and we mean it. Sometimes you may feel like nobody notices, but we could all come up with a story. You could all come up, I'm sure you could tell me stories just like the ones that I told. But the point is, we never give up. So I may not know you personally, some of you I do, but you would not be here if someone didn't see you. Your hard work has not gone without notice. Your time before school, your time after school. Everybody here understands. So during the conference, I'd like you guys to try to see each other. Remember that everyone is here doing the best that they can, that we all come from very different places, and that we're not just teachers, we're people. Feel free, if you like, to borrow my not-so-secret sign. But even if you don't, please know that you are appreciated, that you are understood, that you are loved.